Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Carrie Roldan Show, where we spend 30 minutes or so per week having conversations that matter to the entrepreneur's body, mind, and business. I'm your host, Carrie Roldan. I'm a wife, a mother, a runner, a best-selling author, a personal growth junkie, and your teammate on the entrepreneurial journey. Now, I've been at this whole entrepreneur thing for a little while now, and I have learned that it really is a team sport, which is funny, right? Because so many of us start our own business to be in business for ourselves. But what I found is that just like I used to be a high school cross country and track coach. So just like cross country and track that seems to be an individual sport, right? It's something that you do and win as a team. So if you are ready for a teammate on your entrepreneurial journey, then let's talk. So you can head on over to carrieroldan.com/apply to schedule your free clarity call, where we'll have a look at what is currently going on in your life and business, where you are out of alignment, and what you need to do to get back in. So as many of you know, I have created this Carrie Roldan show because I have stumbled, and I continue to, on my entrepreneurial journey, because the road to success thus far has been full of potholes, detours, and dead ends, not to mention self-doubt, fear, worry, debt, marital tension, personal struggle. And I wanted to share what I continue to learn on my journey in the hopes that it will help you guys too. Because online entrepreneurhood can be an extremely lonely place, and I'm on a mission to help us connect with each other and the people and resources we need to thrive in our businesses. So I'm so excited about today's topic and my guest today, because this is a topic near and dear to my own heart. And it is what to do when your spouse doesn't support your business. So I'm going to introduce my guests and have them say hello. And then I want to read their bio because I was just telling them before I went live. It's so beautiful, just so wonderfully conveys who they are that I want to read it to you. So first, Betty and Michael Friedlander, say hello.
Hello.
Hi, Carrie. So
Hi.
good to be here.
And tell everybody where in the world you guys are.
We are in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is way on the East Coast.
Yes, and I'm sitting, although they said they're having a beautiful day, I'm sitting cozy and warm here in Southern California. All right, let me read Betty and Michael's bio because you guys are going to love it so much. And then let's talk about today's topic about what to do when your spouse is unsupportive in your business. Okay, so my guests today are Betty and Michael Friedlander, a bit, tongue in mouth, sometimes hard, blissfullymarried.com. All right, get this, you guys. Falling asleep in love and waking joyful next to the person you love is Betty and Michael Friedlander's wish. I keep saying Friedlander, it's Friedlander. So wish for every couple. They know it's possible because they experience it in their own life every day. If you and your husband have grown apart, if you long for some way to reclaim your happiness or rekindle your love, the skills they teach can make all the difference. Their premier online program is called Everyday Bliss, a married woman's pathway to more love, joy, and satisfaction. Is a 10-week online journey that helps women let go of frustration and resentment while building the connection they crave with their husbands. Throughout their new course, Betty and Michael provide perspectives of both wife and husband in teaching the same skills they practice every day in their own marriage. Betty and Michael firmly believe that there is a hero in every husband and that the wife holds the key to drawing him out. This means that if you're married to a man who refuses to go to counseling or attend a workshop or support your business, that you no longer need to worry. Because just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, you've had the power all along. So to find out more about what they do and to download their free report, which is pretty rad, called The 7 Pitfalls That Kill Off Love, Intimacy, and Desire, you guys are going to want to go to blissfullymarried.com/more love. So isn't that, guys, wasn't that just the best? Didn't that just give you the warm fuzzies already?
Wow, that sounded awesome.
So guys, tell me this. I've just told everybody what you do, and just reading your bio gave me like a sense of warmth and comfort, and actually a sense of peace. Like almost just reading that out loud helped me feel like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. But so can you tell me how you came to be in this space in your own marriage, and how you actually came to be doing the work in the world?
Absolutely. Well, so we have just celebrated our 17th wedding anniversary. And right now, we are happy and in love. But when I was about to get married 17 years ago, my best friend, Karen, said, don't marry him. Did you know that? You probably didn't even know the story. She said, because I was about to become wife number 4. Wife number 4, I'm Michael's 4th wife. And statistically, I mean, that was kind of like, ooh, well, how am I going to make that go any different? So I married him anyway, because we were so in love. I mean, if I told you the story, he proposed to me on the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It was just, a whirlwind. We got married on the beach in Jamaica, madly, madly in love. And we were married about a year, maybe a little bit of the bloom was coming off the rose, you could just say that. You wake up and you go, But I started hearing about this workshop. And I'm kind of a workshop junkie too, so I love what you say, personal growth. Michael and I met at Landmark Education, started hearing about this workshop that was about understanding men. And I'm like, what have I got to lose? Maybe this could make all the difference, because, I really wanted this marriage to last. Did the workshop. Michael noticed an immediate difference and really got so involved. This was relationship expert Allison Armstrong, who is our mentor. We started showing up, volunteering, and eventually trained to lead her workshops. So we trained for like 3 years and led our own workshops. And we are now honored to be licensed partners with Allison. So we take all our experience of being happily married, everything that we've learned from all our work in transformation and with Allison, and we kind of combined it together to create Blissfully Married, because that's really where we want to apply the information. That's so important to us. Anything you want to add?
Well, what Betty said about when she took the workshop, I noticed a difference immediately. And that ties into what we're going to be talking about. So the woman making a difference can produce a different response in her husband. And just so you know, the first 3 marriages, we're not going to get into those, but all during those, I felt as though there was something wrong with me. And I didn't know the difference that a man was supposed to take in his behaviors. I kept thinking, I should behave more like my wife. And so I would be in a situation and I'd hear some criticism or I'd feel some tension, and I'd think to myself, gee, if you were more this way, then she wouldn't be upset. And I was always, or very often, walking on eggshells. And that is what we relieved when Betty took the workshop with Allison. And that's what we teach, that if you make a change in your behavior as a woman, your husband will naturally behave differently around you.
Yeah, exactly, because he's responding to you, right? You change what you're doing, he can't help but to respond differently. So
I love what you're saying with this, and I get it, because, right, just coming from like a purely energetic perspective, like even when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? That whole idea of like, and we know this as people who study the law of attraction, or people who are sort of in this spiritual realm, right? We get that, if I could just look at him and see all the things that I appreciate about him, then that I would find more things to appreciate. Like, we know this on an intellectual level. And yet, when it comes to our businesses, right, I'll just tell you my story, because I think it will help people. And it's a little scary for me to tell. But a couple years ago, I got to a place, and this has to do with my second question, which is how do you get your spouse, right, to like be on board to, what do you do when you have this unsupportive spouse? And so on my entrepreneurial journey, my husband has kind of always tolerated that. Like, I can't ever say that he's been like really supportive of me being an entrepreneur. And I get it for a lot of reasons. Like, my entrepreneurial journey started in my early 20s with like different multi-level marketing things. And then like, I was sort of I have been sort of the serial entrepreneur, kind of always looking for what is my thing. And after he was initially somewhat supportive, I think I would say he felt he needed to be to be a good husband. He sort of had to show up and be supportive, but internally, I think he was hoping I would go a different direction. And then as I got further and further along on my entrepreneurial journey, I felt like I had to, I want to say, like, do my business in secret. Like, it came very much down to, where's the money, where's the money, where's the money? And it became this great divide between us. My business became like a symbol of this wedge that was between us. And there was a couple of years ago where I like felt like I got to a point where I needed to choose between my marriage and my business. And at the time, I had equated my business with myself. Like, I couldn't actually distinguish them. So I felt like I was kind of being asked to choose between my marriage or myself, which felt like an impossible place to be. But the reason I'm telling this story is because at that time, I noticed a couple of things in our industry. And I actually did a show about it once before, and it got so, my guest actually, I don't think did the best job at like sort of her thing was like, we'll just make a ton of money and then your husband will support you. But what I'm getting at is it created this surge of interest. Like, I felt like there's so many people out there in that same position. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed when I looked around was that there are two stories going around in this world of online women entrepreneurs. And the one story is I have a really supportive, amazing husband or spouse who supports everything I do and now has been my cheerleader and like wants nothing more than for me to be the brilliant shining star that I am. And now I make millions of dollars and I've brought him or her home from work and they're on my team, right? There's that story. Or there's the story of I started my business, I had an unsupportive spouse, so I had to ditch him, and now I'm making millions of dollars and everything's wonderful, right? And I was in this place of like, I have an unsupportive spouse, but I still love him. I still think he's pretty awesome. I don't really want to have to divorce him just to succeed in my business. What do I do? Okay, that was a really long intro, but now take that and run with it, guys.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So the first thing to know is that your husband, what's your husband's name, by the way?
Yeah.
Jim. So Jim married you because he thought he could give you what you needed and make you happy, right? So you probably had this plan, like, how are we going to form this partnership? Where is this partnership heading? And what are we creating? Were you an entrepreneur when you first married Jim? Or
no. So we were an amazing team. We both coached high school cross country and track. And we were so great together as coaches. And it was sort of when that ended and I was home with the kids and figuring out my entrepreneurial journey and he was at work, where the whole business thing sort of became this strange third party in our marriage.
Got it. Okay. So that's perfect. Yeah. So you get married, right? And you have this idea of where your marriage is headed and where you're going. And all of a sudden something changes, right? So there needs to be a whole new conversation and set of deals about what that's going to look like so that you stay in alignment. Otherwise, it's kind of like a car that's like out of alignment and it's not quite running right. And that conversation goes something like, okay, what do you need to give me this is really important to me. This is what I want to do. What do you need to support me, to give me what I'm asking for? You know, that's kind of the partnership question. But you should know that, like, he really, really wants to support you. But there may be things that are happening inside your business and this whole thing, and how much time and money and all the things that are like really feel like a threat to him and the marriage and what you're trying to create. So it's identifying, like, okay, what are those concerns, and what kind of deals can we make around those concerns that are going to work for both of us. Now, this might take some time and some creativity, right? Because they may seem to be in direct conflict with each other, depending on what those concerns are. I mean, maybe he's not getting enough attention, right? Maybe he's not getting enough sex. Maybe he's not feeling like the kids are being taken care of properly, or, you know, the way he envisioned that thing. There could be all kinds of things that are going, wow, I really want to support Carrie, but I have all these problems. And unless you take each one and say, how are we going to work this out and solve this problem in a partnership? Instead of being like, I want to do this, and this is the way it's going to be, because I think a lot of women do, you know, it's like, well, too bad, this is what I'm doing, right? That's like independence, which is the opposite of partnership and working together. It's really like, how do we solve this problem? And the really cool thing is that men are amazing problem solvers. So I'm actually going to take this one. I'm going to let Michael run with this because I think I've spoken enough. But what would you like to add, honey?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. And that is, we make plans for life, but we don't share our plans. It's part of being a man. And in our communications, we generally tend to conceal things. And one of the things that we conceal is a plan. And this has to do with a lot of what we talk about in our workshop. You know, we evolved, and a long, long time ago, there were hunters and gatherers. And men are very well suited to be hunters, but also warriors. And one of the things that warriors do is they hide any kind of weakness or strength or alliance. And another thing we hide is our plan. And you may have experienced this yourself. You go on vacation and you don't know that he's already made a plan. Or you go on a long drive and you want to stop somewhere. And he says, no, because he's got a plan in mind, but he never shared that with you. So the point here is that when two people get married and you have set up the scenario, so she's going to work, and then in a few years we're going to have kids, he's already made a plan down the road to retirement. And he never shared that with you. So,
or maybe he did.
And maybe he did, but a lot of times we don't. And when situations change, it upsets the plan. So that's something that you really want to be cognizant of. And, you know, ask, is life not going the way you had planned? Did you have a different thing in mind for where we're going to be in 5 years? Because he may very well have. Mm-hmm. And that could be something that, because the situation changes, his plan was upset, and now he's upset about that.
Yeah. So I just want to add to that. You know, life always changes, right? So there's always like, okay, let's check in and see that we're headed in the right direction. I can tell that there's something about what I'm doing here that isn't working for you. But I just want you to know, I'm really committed to this. This is so important to me, because that makes a difference for him to know how important it is. I'm sure he does. I'm sure you've made it clear, right? That your business.
Well, now, yes, but you guys are totally describing like all the mistakes that I made in the beginning, like to a T. I'm just sitting nodding, going, "Oh my gosh, yes, yeah, yeah."
It's called being human, right? Right? We get married. It's not like we have a rule book. How to be a good partner and how to, you know, work together. And, you know, when we really are passionate about something and we want it so badly, we don't want to be like, oh, what do you mean you're not, for it? Or what do you mean that you have a problem with this? I've seen this happen a lot too. Why isn't he supportive of it? But because I'm going to say something that might be a little like, oh my gosh, that might shake some women up. But so there's something called veto power. The veto, like if the president vetoes something, like he vetoes a bill.
Right.
When he's feeling really, really threatened by something you're doing, like maybe it's threatening the finances or something that's really important to him, you could say, like, okay, I want to share with you about this plan I have for my business. That's so really important to me. I'm so passionate about it. But ultimately, if you're not for it, we're going to figure out something that we can both be for, because this partnership is really important to me. It's more important than my business. You kind of have to let him know that what he thinks matters, because if he thinks you're just going to go ahead and do it anyway, there's always going to be this resistance, and he's not really for it. He's always going to have a problem with it. But if you frame it in a way like, no, this is important to me and I want to create it in partnership. I want you on my team, on board, supporting me, and I'm only going to do it in that way with you because you really matter to me too. Our partnership really matters to me. Does that make sense?
Yes. And so you've said so many things. So I do want to play devil's advocate, because I actually think I'm like, what we're talking about, the dialogue that you're talking about right now seems easy and doable at a good, like right now in my life, in my relationship with my husband, in my business. Like, these sound like powerful tools for right now, where what I can say about him is he, like what you said, oh my gosh, does he want me to succeed? Like, he wants me to succeed. He wants me to be a bajillionaire and all my dreams to come true. He wants that. But isn't going to necessarily think that every idea I have, like every track that I want to run down in my business, is the best. Now, actually, there's huge wisdom in that. I definitely see why it's a good idea to have these conversations, because I totally value, right? I, like lots of people, right? We marry people who have different strengths than we do. So I actually value him. Like, I see the big picture when he doesn't often see it. But one of the beautiful things that he does is when I see the big picture, he can see step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, where I'm just like, all of it right now. So it works out well. So I can see that now. But I want to talk about, so 2 things came up. One is you said the word teammate. And I want to talk about that because I have a Carrieism around that. And it's April, the month of Carrieisms. So one of my Carrieisms is just that teammates are soulmates. Now, I'm talking about my teammates on the entrepreneurial journey. I'm talking about, my teammates when I was a runner. I'm talking about the teammates, my little girl soccer team, right? Your teammates are your soulmates. Like, when you have a shared journey, so you guys, right? You're my teammates on this entrepreneurial journey. You're my soulmates because we have shared experience, shared pain, shared dreams, right? Where we have, a common goal and dream and desire. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about when your soulmate isn't your teammate. And that's like, I feel like right now, my husband's a little bit more of a teammate on my journey, right? He may be a little reluctant. Like, I think about the teammates I've had in college or in high school that were like, I don't know if she's going to run that fast. Like, I mean, I'll cheer for her but kind of like less supportive. But what about people whose spouse, right? When I read your intro, it said, like, you can change yourself. You can make changes in your behavior that don't require them even going to counseling. Don't require them, like you can make changes and that will help them change. Like, what about people who have a spouse that are saying, I just wish that you would quit this. Why don't you just go get a job? Your business is hurting our family. You're never going to succeed at this. Like, that kind of stuff. What do we do, right? How do you handle a truly unsupportive spouse? Someone who,
that's a
from
great
the
question.
outside looking in, thinks it sure looks and feels like they don't want you to succeed.
Yeah, Carrie, you just rattled off several objections. And each one of those objections can be handled. And I feel as though you're not going to succeed. I feel as though you're taking money away from the family. He's coming from a place of insecurity because now something's changed and it's threatening the way of life that you had. It may be threatening the relationship, but every one of those points that you mentioned, you have to dig deeper. So, for instance, threatening the finances. Okay, well, what is it that would satisfy you? And I think you can't address this at large in one whole scope because you break down each individual piece. So when you're talking about giving enough time, all right, how much time do you need? How much money do we need? Where do you need us to be in the future, near-term future, long-term future? And I understand that it's partly going back to the conversation that Betty had, but even when somebody's upset, you can also ask, what's underneath this for you? Where do you feel threatened? Where do you think, for a man, he thinks that it's not making our relationship work? And it's really important to get underneath that. So I heard a lot of opening for conversation in what you said.
Right. That's really the beginning of the conversation. And really you go into the conversation assuming that he has good intentions. Like, even though it seems like it's totally adversarial to say that, maybe the next question would be, wow, why, this is really important to me. Why do you think that's true? Why do you think I would be better getting a job? And he might just say, I feel like we're going to lose a lot of money and all of his concerns. And then you could say, okay, so let's come up with a plan that's going to have you feel like we have enough. I don't want us to, you obviously don't want to go bankrupt, right? That's not your intention. Assume that you're on the same team. Get yourselves on the same team. Even starting out that conversation, he's just saying that because he's scared and he's threatened and he's worried about where it's going. Yes, that's much safer. Get a job, have a guaranteed income, and then you'll be there 9 to 5, and then you can be more in the marriage. Maybe that's the reason too. You're just not there for him, because men are I get, and there's certain things they can only get from the marriage, from the woman that they married. And if he feels like the business is always coming in front of him, he's trying to get your attention, and she's working on the business, and he can't get what he needs, and he's always second or third or fourth in line. That's always going to be a problem. He's always going to attack that thing that's in front of him. Can you see it?
Oh, you just said that so beautifully. That one hit me, right? And as you were saying it, I was thinking, how many of us are doing that? Mm-hmm. How many of us, heart-centered women entrepreneurs who have such a passion for the work that we do in the world, right? For our message that we feel so called to spread, right? We feel, and the people that we help, right? They're we are so energetically attached to them. But how many of us are maybe taking our husbands or our spouses, I know, taking those other people for granted in our marriage? And I've heard what you just said. I've heard it talked about a lot when children enter the mix, right? That
exactly, same thing.
Have a hard time. And how many of us have described the books that we're writing or the businesses that we're growing as our babies, right? That we're nurturing them. We're waking up at all hours to work on our business. We're saying, hold on, just a few more minutes. Let me finish this thing. We are attending to our businesses as if they are our children. And not as much with our marriages, which then leads me to think about I'm thinking about all the speakers I've heard who talk about while they were building their business, their marriage was crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys just want to comment on that. Like, is there, can we do that without our marriage crumbling?
Yes, but you need to well, your marriage really needs, your partnership needs to be your number one priority, and which is very unpopular in today's culture. It sounds like, oh, what do you mean? But really, he's always going to attack that thing that's getting in front of him. I mean, he signed up for a partnership where, you know, you were going to be a team headed in alignment, and all of a sudden there are things in front of him. He's not getting what he needs. Can you blame? Can you see?
Yeah, even I think bringing up the example of children is totally applicable, because if the business feels to you, it's your baby, it's your child, you're birthing it, it gets in the way. So even raising children, if you make the partnership and the marriage, the number one priority, then you deal with the children from the standpoint, we're united. Mm-hmm. We're going to decide how we raise this child, how much money we need, where we're going to spend time, how much time we spend with the child, and so forth. And we're going to agree on that. Well, the business is no different. Mm-hmm. If you put the partnership first, mm-hmm. Our relationship, our love, my being with you, my loving you, my spending the rest of my life with you is the number one most important thing in my life, mm-hmm. that keeping that, and this business is incredibly important to me. Mm-hmm. So you have a career that you are pursuing. This is my career that I want to pursue. What deals do we need to make so that we can both be happy, so that I can satisfy you, that you know that I have a business and not a hobby, because that could be very much mm-hmm. an upsetting factor. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to relate, to talk about what they talk about on Shark Tank. I'm sure you watch Shark Tank. Many of your followers are going to watch Shark Tank. And they'll hone right in. This is a hobby. This is not a business, right? I can't invest in this because you don't have any systems. You don't have any bookkeeping. How are you going to do distribution? Well, you know, your business is no different. And he may have concerns. And it's just a question of answering those concerns.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially like if attention is one of the concerns, like he feels like he's not getting enough attention, and say, okay, what deals can you make around that? Maybe it looks like you can interrupt me at any point. I am at your disposal 24/7, and I will always put you first. And just knowing that, like if he knows that, that's going to chill the caveman. That's going to have him go, okay, I know I can. And then he, like most of the times, he'll choose not to. Like if he knows that you're doing something else, but if he knows that he's more important, he's the most important thing. I think it's just really important to feel that way when you're in a partnership. Imagine if it was a business partnership, right? Would you want your business partner going off and doing whatever they felt like doing without, like, you know, first having that conversation? I mean, it's a lot easier to look at it that way because it's way less charged, you know?
No, you guys have said this so beautifully. So one, I want to give your link again because I'm sure people have forgotten. And although if you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, the link is probably nearby, but blissfullymarried.com/more love. And when you go there, you'll enter your name and email, and you're going to get Betty and Michael's free report, which is, I just love it because it's Husbands Speak Out, right? So we are heart-centered women entrepreneurs. Oh, Michael's holding it up. But it's from the man, like, hey, just FYI, I thought you should know, right? The 7 pitfalls that are going to kill off love, intimacy, and desire. And I have one last question for you, because I think it's important. I think a lot of us women have done this. And so many women, so first of all, I'm coming from the same place you guys are, right? Is what I figured out in the beginning, like this whole journey, what I figured out is what I really wanted is I wanted intimacy. And I believed that my business would create the freedom, and in the freedom, we would find intimacy. But what I wound up doing with my behavior is actually like building this wedge between my husband and myself, and intimacy in terms of like him being the person I could talk to about everything. Him being like, that went away for a long time because I was determined to build my business first. Like somehow I had it in my head that I would build my business first and that would lead to intimacy. And thank God for him, right? Because he was the one who kind of said, we need to have some hard conversations. Like I was sort of like, I'll just put my nose down, I'll just keep working on my business and eventually it'll pay off. And then then I'll have intimacy with my husband. Then he'll see. That's what it really came down to, is then he'll see. Then he'll see that I was right all along. Then he'll see. And all that time, he saw. And he did want to help, but didn't necessarily have the vocabulary. That conversation that you were talking about at the beginning of our interview about, okay, I need this. What do you do? Like, I see that you need this. What do you need from me? So I can still, the whole negotiation thing about, I need this, you need that. How do we get both our needs met? That was totally revolutionary for me because I saw everything as either or. And that's what I want to talk about in our last few minutes together is, and maybe we've already talked about it, but as you're talking, I'm going back to my former self, right? I'm going back to me a couple of years ago, and I'm thinking how I would have fought what you're saying with, but my husband's the enemy, but my husband's not like that, but my husband really is a huge jerk, but my husband really doesn't want to support me. My husband, like, I think I was in that place for a while. So, like, I guess what I'm at, well, one, I think everybody who is there should probably go to blissfullymarried.com/more love. But maybe you guys could talk about that is, there are women watching this right now who are so devoted to their business and because it is connected to their purpose in the world, and so devoted to their husbands or to their marriages, or at least not ready. Maybe they're not so devoted. They're just not ready to divorce. But they feel like their husband really is. He's not this guy you're talking about. He's not the guy, right? He's the other guy. He's the mean one. What does she need to do? Like, what space does she need to get into to even open up to the conversation?
Can I take this? And
Sure,
then I'll let you.
ahead.
Okay. Because this is such a great question. So what is going to bring out the worst, the caveman attack, the jerk that is not feeling safe, right? If he doesn't feel safe, if there's a threat, and what's going to make him feel safe is trust and respect, right? You trust him, you respect him, I believe in you. Like, that's going to have him feel safe. Like, he can be productive. Now, that is not what makes women feel safe. What makes women feel safe is connection. That's why you were like, I wanted that connection. Well, then you need to show him trust and respect. And showing him trust and respect is literally being a good partner. And I trust you. I believe in, I believe we can work this out. Let's work this out in partnership. That's what I would say. If she's getting the jerk, it's because she's triggering, the caveman, which is the very worst. And it's not who he is. It's not who he wants to be. Like, really just assume that underneath all that, he really has good intentions. Like, he doesn't wake up every day saying, how can I piss off my wife and be unsupportive? He really does. So.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's being sensitive and observant about his reaction to what's going on. So if he gets triggered and he's not nice, maybe there was some situation that you had a part of that might have triggered that. Did he need something from you that you couldn't provide because you were busy with the business? Did he expect something of you that wasn't provided because you were devoted to the business? And if you can observe when he gets upset, there's always something underneath. Mm-hmm. There's always some unresolved need, undelivered requirement that's underneath that upset. And so if you can just keep an eye out and take, you have to take responsibility. It's something that he didn't get, that I may have been responsible for, and let me think about it. What was it? And then you can open a conversation. Honey, I noticed this. Was it because of this?
Yeah. All right. Could I just because I have to add a piece there. I'm going, his caveman gets triggered, but your cave woman's getting triggered too. So it's not, you can't really even have that conversation when you're in that like upset. You cannot have that conversation. So you need to do something to nurture yourself. And I know we haven't really been talking about this, but you're being in good shape. So knowing what you need to do, like what is it? Meditate. What is it? Go for a walk. Do something to chill out your cave woman so that you're in good shape before you even try to have any of these conversations. Does that make sense? Because we haven't put that piece in, and it's like, whoa, the piece that's like, yeah.
Right, because if you're both upset at the same time, then it's never gonna work out.
Yeah.
We've had some of those, and you're right, they never work out. And everything you're saying is like, oh yes, I know. I had to learn this the really, really hard way. And I think what's so important about this conversation is that we could be having it the other way around too. And because I know there's so many women out there that we feel like, well, why should I have to be the one who, right? There we have sort of this like childish, and men probably feel this way too, I don't know, but like, well, how come I have to show him trust and respect first? Like maybe he should behave respectfully and then I'll respect him, right? Like why do I have to give before I get, right? There's that argument for women, and I want to address it, and then feel free to give your own 2 cents. But here's what I know is, well, one, this was my Carrieism several days ago, right? But you have to behave like the person that you want to become. And if you want to become someone who's in a partnership that works, right? If you want to become someone who is married to someone who's respectable, then treat them respectfully, right? If you want to become someone, it really is about showing up as the person you want to be and not blaming who you're acting like on that other person. I don't know if that's making sense, but I feel like there's a lot in our culture that kind of says like, well, he's not going to do this, and I'm not giving him an inch until he shows me this. And everything you're saying is about taking responsibility for our own selves, our own energy. Even Betty, you were talking about self-care first and then approach it, but it really is about taking responsibility for your own needs and then taking action to get your needs met, which might mean meeting his. I don't know if you've got anything else to say.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, it really is all about cause and effect. You do this and he will react this way, and knowing what that cause and effect is. There was something else I wanted to say, but gosh, you really said so much there. I
have a tendency of doing that.
I know. I got so lost in your comment. I know exactly what I want to say. He's going to be if they're asking, like, why should I do this? It's because connection is what makes us feel safe.
Yeah.
You can only be your best self if you feel connected to your husband. Otherwise, you're not going to like yourself in that partnership. So it's up to you. That's why women are the ones to really initiate this, right? I mean, trust and respect is great. Actually, it's critical when we're in the masculine, right? You can see why that's important to them. But that connection to your husband, it's the only way it's going to work. It's the only way that you're going to be happily married and have a great partnership. So that's why I say, yes, you can cause that. And that's why you should be the one, and you wouldn't want him to be the one responsible for that. Like, you want to have the power to do that and cause that transformation. That's where I'm out about it. What about you, honey?
That's perfect.
Look at that. So blissfully married. All right, you guys, we are just out of time. And so I just want to, again, encourage everybody to go to blissfullymarried.com/more love. Download Betty and Michael's free report. I think you will find it. I think that in going through it, well, actually, I know this because in going through it, it affirms things that you already know. Maybe some things you're like, whoa, I didn't know that. Like, crap, that was an eye-opener for me. Other things you know up here, but it drops them into here. Like it really helps you understand and appreciate and adore the man in your life, right? Like their perspective. And that's all I can say really is that it helped me appreciate my husband. And I did want to give sort of I've been like alluding to it sort of this whole show and telling you, you know, where I was when I started my business and some of the mistakes that I made myself, right, was that like hiding I wanted connection, but I was hiding my business. I was like kind of doing this around my business. Like I'm thinking about it in terms of if my business is the baby and my husband's like, let me see the baby. And I'm like, no, I'll show you the baby when it's an adult. Like I'll show you the baby when it grows up, but I'm not ready to show it to you now. Because I thought he would criticize my baby, or I thought he would, but when I finally showed him the baby and said, look at this baby, look at how important it is to me, look at all the things you said, and also, how can you help with the baby? Oh my goodness, did things turn around, right? Our relationship got almost instantly better. But lo and behold, right, my business picked up, right? That's all about, right? It's about what you guys teach in terms of communication between a husband and wife, but it was all about what I teach in terms of like getting into alignment within myself and behaving like the person that I wanted to be. That totally miracles happened, right? Business picked up, like things, and my business evolved in ways that I was stopping the evolution of my business because I wasn't willing to share it with my husband until it was all grown up. And once I kind of made myself more vulnerable and did open, right, it was scary, but it created that connection, which then has created some really cool stuff. That's
yay!
Yeah, connection.
Right? And he feels respected because I'm not trying to hide it from him, right? I'm not being like, I'll show it to you when it's done. And yeah, so much better. And that's what I'm saying. So I guess the thing is, the answer to the question, what do you do if you have an unsupportive spouse? Can you give me a one sentence? Like what do you do if you have an unsupportive spouse?
Okay. What's going to have him feel safe and like you're on the same team?
Yeah. Anything else, Michael?
There's always something under the surface. And what we reveal is just the very top layer. Drill down. Be open to a conversation and be open to hearing what you might not want to hear. Because even though it might not what you'd want to hear in the moment, there's probably a way for both of you to satisfy what you both need.
That was so important. That hit me. So the drilling down, yes, right? Like, because on the surface, there might be a jerk, right? But beneath that jerk, right, is someone with incredible intentions. Who just needs a little bit of digging. I love the way you said that. It's really good. All right, you guys. So you can tell Michael and Betty are amazing. You all need to go get their free report, and I'm guessing it leads to a conversation. Does it lead to a conversation with you guys?
Sorry, what?
If they download the free report, will they eventually be able to have a conversation with you guys?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll also be having a free webinar in a couple of weeks. So we'll let them know. If they download the free report, we'll automatically let them know when that's going to happen.
Yep.
because you guys want to get in these people's tribe. I mean, you guys who watch me every week, you know, like when things are in alignment, when I have a guest that makes me like have this physical reaction and this like, ah, yes, like they're speaking truth, like hashtag truth. They are speaking truth, and I wish I would have. I wish even this free report, like I wish I would have had this 3 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was doing this in my business. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for being my guests today. You are doing really important work for women entrepreneurs, like really important work. I'm just wondering, like, even watching this show, like, could we have saved a marriage by somebody watching this show? And I think I think if I would have seen this show a couple years ago, luckily my marriage didn't go right, but I was there feeling like I had to decide between my business and my marriage, and feeling like, I see Betty, but like it was an icky place, and it was because I had tied my business to myself and my purpose, and so many of us have done that. Our businesses are tied in with our sense of self and our sense of purpose. And I felt like I was at a place of an impossible choice. Mm-hmm. And so many people get there in that feeling of impossible choice and blame the other person and their marriage and grow a successful business and then still aren't happy. Mm-hmm. And we don't want that for you.
No.
So if it's you, go to blissfullymarried.com/more love. Betty and Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you, Carrie. You've been so warm and loving, and we really appreciate.
It's just a love fest over here. So entrepreneurs on the journey, blissfullymarried.com/more love. If you need help and support on your journey, if you know you're physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually out of alignment, and particularly the physical, those people are the ones who, let me tell you people, I can help you. Come to carrieroldan.com/apply, and let's have a conversation about where you're stuck, where you're out of alignment, and how I can get you back in. And if your specific problem happens to be what we just talked about today, then Betty and Michael are your people. Go to blissfullymarried.com/more love and download the free report. Thanks everyone for being here today. Thanks, Betty and Michael. Here's a great big virtual hug.
Yay! It's a real hug.
And we'll see you all on the next episode of the Carrie Roldan Show.